Commission this evening. It's 6:33 p.m. All commissioners are present with the exception of Mr. Mike Pangolian. He is recused from this evening's business. First order of business is approval of minutes of the July 30th, 2026 regular meeting.
Motion to approve subject to corrections.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Joe. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next item is GWA docket number 2405, petition to approve GWA's fiscal year 2025 to 2029 five-year financial plan and rate increase request. We have an ALJ report and a proposed order.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. This matter is a true-up proceeding for the establishment of GWA's FY 2027 rates. The matter comes before the Guam Public Utilities Commission upon GWA's filing of an FY 2027 true-up application on April 13, 2026, and the joint stipulation between GWA and PUC Consulting, Georgetown Consulting Group, dated July 17, 2026. The joint stipulation outlines a proposed settlement concerning the true-up of FY 2027 rate revenue recovery approved by the PUC in its rate decision order dated September 24, 2024. The first thing I really want to emphasize to the Commission is we've already made decisions about the GWA rates for 2027. What's before you tonight in the true-up is not a first impression proceeding or a de novo proceeding. It's something that you have already determined in the past to some extent. And in fact, you determined in September 24 in the FY 2025 to 29 rate decision that there should be rate increases every year of the five-year plan. So tonight, trying to narrow down what the rate should be in a true-up proceeding follows up the decision you previously made. And in that decision on the FY 25 to 29 rate case, you held basically that effective October 1, 2026, for FY 2027, GWA was authorized to implement an across-the-board 7.75% increase in water and wastewater rates. I'm not going to go too extensively over the reasoning and why you felt that a rate increase was necessary, but there are just a couple of major factors on that. One was you found that there was a necessity to increase rates over the five-year plan, largely due to requirements and factors that GWA didn't have control over. And the total five-year capital improvement program was at a cost of $899 million over the 5 years. So that's really what's driving the rate increases in the five-year plan. Some of those were costs and projects mandated by the new 2024 partial consent decree with the US EPA, as well as water treatment initiatives aimed at addressing the US EPA's proposed and anticipated final limits on emerging contaminants such as PFAS and dieldrin. There was also extensive costs for military buildup projects and water loss reduction programs. The water projects were estimated at over $433 million. Wastewater projects associated with the consent decree, over $330 million. Electrical monitoring and control projects at $36 million plus, and that's based on SCADA implementation. And then various general plant and miscellaneous projects over $98 million. These are all costs that have to be taken care of in the five-year plan through rates. That's really the major reason that the increase was required. However, after your 2024 decision, you also held there that there would be a true-up proceeding. In other words, the rates weren't final after the 2024 decision, but would have to go through what is being done tonight, a true-up proceeding to determine what the rate should be. And I want to let you know that there has been a rather intense adjudicative process over the last 5 months involving GWA, Georgetown, and myself to come to a stipulation in this matter. What happens in the true-up proceeding is that the parties negotiate over issues concerning what are the actual revenues going to be for 2027, have there been changes in the revenues, what are the expenses going to be, how do those affect the total revenue and expenses for FY 2027. This was it is always a lengthy process. It was actually shortened a little bit to this year. We usually do the true up in September, but the parties have agreed to get it done in August. There were 2 sets of lengthy discovery questions that Georgetown had propounded to GWA. Those were answered. We had many conferences between myself, the consultants, and GWA on this. And then subsequently, at the end of June, the parties submitted their statements, basically position statements on what should be the changes in the true-up proceeding for FY 2027. After that, the parties met in San Francisco and arrived at a joint stipulation. That was an in-person negotiation in good faith between July 7 and July 9, 2026. Just trying to establish that you understand the length and extent of the negotiations that went into this. Is a good faith effort by both sides to see what the rates should be and to, if possible, reduce those rates. Based on the stipulation, the parties are both recommending stipulated adjustments to the PUC's FY 2027 true-up rate decision and order. The first matter they address, or have addressed, is rate design. Now, originally, we had hoped that rate design would be included in this true-up proceeding, but it turned out, because of the shorter time we had, that those rate design issues couldn't be resolved completely. So the parties have agreed that those will be put off likely until December. It's hoped at this point. There has been progress on them, and there is a schedule to proceed ahead, but we anticipate that the rate design issues will be before the PUC in December. Now, as I said, most of the true-up between the parties involves narrowing down expenses, seeing where expenses are greater or less, and then where revenues might have increased too. The main area that the parties found an increase in revenues was in the category of interest income operating fund. The income for FY 2027 was increased through interest income from about 4.443 million to over 5.807 million. And the parties basically found the initial interest income was underestimated. And the reasons that were underestimated, there are a couple of things. GWA recently decided that its prior interpretation of interest earned on debt service reserve funds have changed, and that may be used in calculating debt service coverage. That's a significant change because debt service reserve funds now represent more than half of the balance available for the interest income calculation. And in addition, the Georgetown again pointed out that the total interest-bearing funds increased by approximately 72.3 million between September 30, 2025 and May 31, 2026. So that's the increase in revenues. A lot of other expenses were affected. Some were increased, some were decreased. Power expenses went up by over 671,000 due to the fact that the LEAC increased. Water purchase expenses were increased by over $460,000 because Navy had increased its rates. There was a reduction in salary and benefit expenses of about $822,000. And that relates to the timing of hiring by GWA. Sometimes GWA sets forth positions, but the positions won't be filled for the whole year. So the parties there negotiated a reduction in the salary that would have to be paid. A reduction in administrative and general expenses and contractual expenses totaling about $1.5 million, and a slight reduction in legal expenses. So the expense decrease was $1,376,000 plus dollars. And again, that means when there's more revenue or a decrease in expenses, that the rate increase does not have to be as high as had been projected originally. The parties found that the total benefit to the ratepayers from these changes that were done was $4,159,987. The parties stipulated also to the elimination of a $2.5 million withdrawal from the rate stabilization fund. In its filing, GWA had felt that they would have to use some of the rate stabilization funds to be able to reduce the rate increase somewhat in this case. But since there were more recovery on the interest income and less expense, then that need to withdraw from the RSF was eliminated. As a result of the stipulated adjustments to revenues and expenses, parties reduced targeted FY 2027 revenue recovery level by $2,910,986 from over $166,847,000 to $163,939,000 plus. So that was the reduction in revenue recovery. As a result of these changes that the parties have agreed to, the proposed FY 2027 non-lifeline rate adjustment proposed will be reduced from 7.75% to 6.25%. And that's indicated in true-up schedule A3, which is attached to both the stipulation and my AOJ report. The parties reached another agreement on the rate stabilization fund. By their stipulation, GWA will target a minimum RSF balance of $10 million through the remainder of the current 5-year rate plan. GWA agrees to transfer any excess net operating revenues into the RSF, if there are such revenues, that will provide for the authority to attain debt service coverage of not less than 1.40 in FY 2026, 1.45 in FY 2027, and 1.5 in FY 2028. So any transferred RSF funds will be used to offset potential rate adjustments. That is, that they will be used against a need to increase rates in the remaining years. Now, we don't know what excesses there will be at this point, but that's a potentially positive development for the ratepayers. Another matter involved the issue of capitalized interest on bonds. So many times in past bond issuances, the GPA and GWA had decided to capitalize interest over the first 3 years of the bonds. And that would mean the ratepayers wouldn't have to pay that interest for the 3-year period. Now, the parties here, Georgetown and GWA, greatly diverge on their opinions about capitalized interest. believe Georgetown believed that when you capitalize the interest, then the ratepayers don't have to bear that for the initial 3 years. So something of a benefit to the ratepayers, although it has to be paid over the term of the bond. So you end up amortizing the capitalized interest over the remainder of the bond period. The ratepayer still pays. GWA took the position that their municipal advisors had advised them against capitalizing interest in the FY 2027 bond issuance that's coming up. Georgetown again felt that the costs wouldn't be too much to the ratepayers to amortize it over the terms of the bond. But in any event, parties agreed that as far as the FY 2027 bond issuance, there will not be capitalized interest. So that's not an issue there. But Georgetown recommended that there be a separate docket in which it would have a full opportunity to argue the issue about capitalized interest. So that docket would be under ALJ and would address the, issue of whether interest should be capitalized as a matter of principle or not. And then, of course, anything arrived at in that docket would come back to the commissioners for their decision. In this docket, there would be an independent adjudication to evaluate the structuring of prospective revenue bond issuances with capitalized interest. And the docket would be independently evaluated on its own merits without regard to what the practice has been in the past for capitalizing interest in bond issuances. Moving on to the proposed rate adjustments and bill impacts. There are various schedules that set this forth. Schedule A3, Schedule K, and Schedule L. Those have all been attached. The true-up Schedule A3 indicates that total sources of revenues are expected to increase in FY 2027 from $153,464,258 in FY 2026 to $163,936,796 in FY 2027. However, expenses are also increasing. So although you have an increase in revenues of over 10 million, the uses of funds also increases from 152,705,000 plus in FY 2026 to 164,087,830 in FY 2027. So for FY 2027, GWA expects a negative cash flow of $151,034. And where you look at the rate impact on the ratepayers are schedules K and L. And of course, all non-lifeline water rates and wastewater rates for all rate classes, residential, commercial, government, hotel, agricultural, and irrigation, will increase by 6.25%. However, according to Schedule L, the monthly customer bills for all residential ratepayers using a 3/4-inch meter size, which is the majority of residential ratepayers, and using between 1 and 15 kgals will increase between 2.55% and 4.99%. So actually the increase for residential ratepayers is less than the overall 6.25. And that's the result of the lifeline rate on the first 5,000 gallons, which I believe is $3.91 per gallon. But anyway, the lower subsidized rate there brings the increase here down for the residential ratepayers. My recommendations are as follows. As to the joint stipulation, the ALJ found that the proposed stipulations should be approved by the Commission. The joint stipulation was bargained for at arm's length by GWA and Georgetown and represents a full and final resolution of presently pending issues of the true-up proceeding. Actually, the prior true-up proceeding, there was not complete agreement and there were issues the PUC had to address, but that's not the case today. I recommend that the Commission approve the joint stipulation in accordance with its provisions and adopt the adjustments to GWA's FY 2027 annual true-up filing, which are summarized in true-up Schedule A3. As to rates, the ALJ recommends that the PUC adopt the FY 2027 true-up rate application model, STIP negotiations final. I provided that to the commissioners in email, and the adjustments in those schedules. Based upon the administrative record, the ALJ finds that the proposed rates contained in the final RAM and the joint stipulation are just and reasonable pursuant to 12 GCA, 12116, and 12118. So again, in the rate decision in 2024, the PUC had approved across the board 7.75% increase on non-lifeline rates and water and wastewater rates effective October 1, 2026. But as a result of the negotiations outlined and the joint stipulation, the increase has been reduced to 6.25%. I feel that because of the very large capital improvement project budget required over the 5 years of the 5-year rate plan, that the parties have really done the best they can here to reduce the overall rate increase. And I did also submit for your consideration a proposed rate order, and those would, the order would basically implement the recommendations that I have made here, and cover a few of them. Again, just, you'd adopt the joint stipulation and the ALJ report, and Schedule A3 would be adopted. The revenue recovery would be reduced for FY 2027 as indicated. I've indicated what the rate increase will be. There will be the separate docket that I mentioned. And again, I believe the joint stipulation rates proposed in the final RAM are just and reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Fred, Teresa, any comments? No?
Thank you, ALJ Haraki. Mr. Chair, good evening, Commissioners, good evening. First, I do want to say thank you to the Commission for scheduling this special meeting. I understand that there would not be a PUC forum available at its regularly scheduled meeting next week, Thursday. So we are very grateful that the Commissioners were amenable to reschedule and have a special meeting for tonight. Because the true-up is important. We are coming up on the close of the fiscal year, and so we thank you for that. Because of the schedule change, I will also say that the general manager and the CFO were originally scheduled to be present at what we thought was going to be the true-up hearing, which was next week, Thursday. But there is a financing calendar in place right now and in play, because we are looking to issue bonds, of course, with the PUC approval in 2026. And so the GM and the CFO are now off island, and they had grading presentations before Standard & Poor's and Moody's in San Francisco today. I think it's maybe 1:30 a.m. or 2 a.m. San Francisco time, so that that's the reason for their absence. I wanted to share that. But before the commissioners, this evening is our acting general manager, as also, of course, our assistant general manager of engineering, Mr. Brett Riley. So I'm hoping we can narrow the questions to things we can speak of. The commissioners have heard through the ALJ that a lot of what is driving the rate increases are these projects that have been court ordered under our 2024 partial consent decree and now have been required by our regulatory agencies, the local Guam EPA, and of course, federal US EPA for emerging contaminants. So of course, the acting GM can speak to any questions regarding upcoming projects and what the bulk of those expenses should encumber. Other than that, we do have our Chief Budget Officer here as well, Mr. Jason Baza. And Mr. Baza was present in San Francisco at the time the stipulations were negotiated in person. The ALJ represented accurately that this really has been a very huge undertaking for all of the parties. GWA's financing team, along with its consultants, have met regularly since the filing in April to go over our proposed filing. And, we've thoroughly vetted the docket. There's been meetings. The ALJ has been present for those meetings. There's been a back and forth internal discovery phase, if you will. So a lot of questions have been vetted, and we are pleased to present the stipulation to the board because the ALJ is correct. For this fiscal year 2027 true-up, there are no outstanding issues for the board to decide. So that means that we've come to an agreement on what the rates can be, what the projected revenues and expenses are, and we're happy that all the parties have come to that agreement and actually that it has come to something favorable to the ratepayers, a projected increase nonetheless, but a lower increase. With that, we're happy to address any questions or the acting GM can share any comments.
Any comments at all, Brett?
I'm happy the stipulation is agreed to by both parties, and I think that ALJ did a fabulous job walking everyone through where we are and how we got to the true-up numbers. And as was mentioned earlier, the bulk of the rate increases are being driven by the capital program. And that capital program, now that we are in the final few projects to wrap up the 2011 court order with the last 3 concrete tanks that are under construction and the last steel tank being repaired under that court order. The bulk of the capital project work moving forward is going to be to address the partial consent decree on the for the wastewater system and addressing the emerging contaminants and design for the PFAS and deodorant and other issues we're seeing in a number of the wells around the island, and then addressing the water loss control program.
Thank you, Brett. It looks like in the customer classes, residential between 1,000 and 5,000 gallons, just to go over this again one more time, is the increases will be between about 2.5% and 3%. The overall increase on this stipulation is 6.25%, but for the bulk of the residential customers, it's an overall lower number. And dollar-wise, that looks to be about $2.39 per customer billing. So, good work to all of you. That's a pretty good compromise, I think, at this point in time. And we're very happy that you reached the stipulation this year. It always makes it so much easier for everybody. Any questions from the commissioners?
I have a question,
Go ahead, Doris.
and it's related not so much to this. As I was reading your financial audit, under litigation, there was something that caught my eye, and I'll just read the comment, hopefully. And what I'm seeking for is just clarification. Government claims totaling $167.5 million have been filed against GWA resulting from local government regulations, with claimants threatening to file a class action lawsuit. What is the nature of those claims, and where are you now with that?
I can speak to that. So, that comment is coming from the financial audit, and I believe it's the notice, right?
Yes,
So,
page 62 of the notice.
the claims are all, the claims specifically dealing with that estimated amount of, you said 165 million and over 300 claims.
167 million and have been filed. I don't know the number of people, but there's the possibility, it says, of a class action lawsuit. So is this related to the Dildon issue?
All of those claims, specific to that in general note, are related to Dildren claims. GWA has received to date over between 300 and 400 claims. We received claims beginning in January 2025. They are claims being filed by a local law firm, and they are claims being filed by individual claimants. They are all Dildren-related claims seeking up to the maximum amount of $500,000. So under the Government Claims Act, the agency has a time frame to respond to claims once they're filed. So what's happening is now is GWA is individually reviewing the claims, and we've been responding because the timeline for the first few claims that were filed in January of 2025 have already passed the 6-month time frame, and we've already begun to respond and send responses to government claims. So that's what's happening now. Just a review of the government claims that have been filed, and then our decision on the claims, which again, the majority of the claims are seeking the maximum claim amount, which is $500,000. I think the note, did you mention the possibility for litigation?
Class action.
Class action 2. So that has come from public media reports that a specific law firm has met with residents in Chico who were affected by our do not drink without treatment notification, which was issued in September of 2025. And that law firm has, invited and scheduled many public meetings with the residents of Chico or anyone who they believe is affected. And there's been public announcements coming from the firm, that they plan to file class action lawsuit against GWA for the effects of the Dildren. Yeah, so because all of the claims have not been resolved, I'm not at liberty to speak about, of course, claims that haven't been fully reviewed and adjudicated. I will inform the PUC that the majority of claims have not been reviewed and adjudicated because they trickled in between January 2025 through January 2026. I misspoke earlier. January 2026 through June of this year. So all of these claims, if we don't receive any more claims after June, will be fully reviewed by December of this year, because that is the 6-month time frame for the government to respond. Under the Government Claims Act, if a claimant isn't satisfied with an agency response, they do have the ability to take their matter and appeal to the Superior Court of Guam. And I cannot speak to the local firm who's filed hundreds and hundreds of these claims between, the number in my mind is over 400, but because I don't have the numbers in front of me, I'm a little,
I just want to journal.
but it is the largest number of claims that GWA has received. We have a We do receive government claims annually. Ballpark, I think both of those, I think on average, we receive between 15 and 20, and sometimes just a little more than 10. So I've done a little research, and I don't think we have received this many claims, at least in the last 7 years, and that's speaking to, of course, agency employees who assist with managing government claims for GWA. I hope that addresses the question.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if it was children.
It is, they are all children-related claims, yes.
And I spoke to you earlier about, and maybe I'd like to just get it on the record. If I'm not mistaken, because you're saying you're gonna do a bond issue later, the PUC did approve interim short-term financing, if I'm not mistaken. And so, just for the record, what happened to that avenue of seeking interim financing?
So the short-term financing resulted in a credit revolver. So GWA was looking to borrow $75 million through a credit revolver. A thorough, I guess, due diligence process occurred, and there was very heavy vetting with the legal team and the finance team. And so the $75 million revolver has resulted in a $50 million credit revolver. We have not executed the contract. It took a course of so many months, and there was a lot that the bank's legal team really wanted to understand regarding the Portec litigation before they approved the financing. But the financing is with Royal Bank of Canada and is for a credit revolver of $50 million, so a reduction of $25 million. And so that's where that ended up. But we should be executing that contract shortly.
Oh, you are?
We are. Because we still, of course, see that as a benefit. It is something that the PUC has already approved. We're actually now going to be receiving a credit, or have a credit line, I guess, so to speak, for an amount less than what the PUC has approved. So that's the $50 million, and that's what the bank is willing to lend under the credit revolver terms. There are strict terms, and we're still going through those terms before we actually execute the final agreement. But the approval's already been given by the PUC.
And so do you expect to finalize that before you go to the bond market? Are you still planning to go then to the bond market?
Yes. We have filed a petition requesting for the PUC's approval under Public Law 37-103. The Guam legislature approved GWA borrowing $568 million on the bond market. The PUC will recall last July, it was either between June and July last year, 2025, the PUC approved a borrowing of up to, I believe it was up to $300 or $350 million, but we ended up borrowing $266 million. So there's still a remainder available on the $568 million that was authorized by the legislature. The legislature has put in place conditions which requires the PUC's approval. And so before any issuance occurs, we must have the approval of the PUC. So we did file another petition requesting for the PUC's review and approval for GWA to issue another $110 million in bonds. The petition, I believe, I just filed that last Sunday. So you may or may not have received it. I know we've provided all the hard copy filings as required by the rules, the administrative team. So you may be receiving that docket or petition for review shortly. But that's where we're at with GWA's issuance for fiscal year 2026 bonds.
So we're looking at a $50 million revolver plus another $110 million in bonds, correct? So that's going to bring you over $1 billion in outstanding debt, because you're just short right now of $1 billion. You have over $1 billion now, but that includes OCAD and other stuff, but taking away all of that, that's gonna bring you over $1 billion in debt. That's quite a lot.
I will say that, when the PUC, of course, reviews and fully gets, the petition on the bonds, we have, put together, the required numbers to indicate, that there is the adequate debt service coverage.
Yes.
We have healthy
I
debt
see that,
service coverage is well above the 1.25 required by the bond indenture today. And what we are trying to do, of course, is, keep GWA in compliance with all of the requirements, to improve the water system, the wastewater system. And then, of course, these new requirements on emerging contaminants, where we're faced with these realities. I understand, we all understand there's economic challenges and uncertainties. But I guess as we get to that petition, we can discuss more. I will, but all of what's before the commissioners this evening, this was, all part of our original 5-year plan from fiscal year 25 through fiscal year 29. And so, these rates have already been, and this plan has been put before the commissioners since 2024 in anticipation of fiscal year 25. And each year we come back because we have to, and we need to review the realities. Revenues and expenses that are unknown, including power. Expenses that jump.
Thank you, Teresa. Pete? Joe?
The stipulation shows a reduction of $822,000 on salaries and benefits. How's the staffing levels?
I cannot speak to all the departments, but I know in the engineering department, we have vacant positions that have been open for, over several years, and we're having difficulty filling those positions. So we budget for those positions every year, hoping we're gonna get qualified applicants to fill those positions, and when they don't get filled, that budget line item ends up as a savings that you're seeing on paper.
But we're still looking at.
Well, we're still looking to fill those positions, yes, we do need more help to execute all of these projects that are needed to meet the partial consent decree and the other, emerging contaminant requirements and deal with the water loss control program and put the system in a state that it needs to be in.
Question on December rate design. Are you looking at new categories, data centers, manufacturing, or are you just gonna stick to the current categories? Hotel, commercial, are you gonna add categories?
I don't think we're going to add categories, but, I haven't looked at the rate design document in a while. I know it's gonna be volumetric, and it's gonna be, the rates are gonna be contingent on usage and volume for both the water and wastewater categories, but in terms of residential, commercial, and other new breakdown categories from those umbrella categories, I don't think that's been contemplated.
Can I add to that? Joe, we have expressly discussed your concern about manufacturing. That has been a part of the rate design discussion, which I brought to their attention. And we're trying to work out some way that can be incorporated into rates.
We don't have that as a category presently? Yeah, no, agriculture. I think to date, the data centers that we do have relatively smallish in the grand scheme of things, and they're mostly HVAC cooled. I don't think they're significantly water cooled yet, although the future might find that we're in a different situation or something.
Also, General Manager Borgalio indicated a willingness to address that issue and try to find a working solution. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's to perhaps somehow isolate the water from manufacturing and maybe charge it in a different way, something they thought they might be able to do through regulation. So we're still looking at that.
Anything else from the commission? Is there a motion?
Move to approve docket 2405.
Thank you, Joe. Second? Second. Pete seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously. Thank you, GWA.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, administrative matters, updates on renewable energy rate sustainability white paper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, the consultant, Mariana's consultant is basically received this task. They have submitted the first request for information, the Guam Power Authority. We did also send them a slight amendment to the scope of work, and have them take a look at the rates and basically how the 25-year term under the new ECA will affect the 100% renewable requirement. Whether or not that's sustainable. So this is still an ongoing, this is still a work in progress, and I haven't received anything back from the consultant at this point.
Thanks, Anthony. Next item is an update on waste energy white paper. We have something further on that. I think we had asked for some extra information.
Yes, so they wanted drawn specific numbers. I believe we have Mr. John Culbertson and Jerry Leone, who are on Zoom. Basically, the updates I have included, they gave us a technical memorandum dated August 14th, as well as an updated presentation. John, are you available now?
Affirmative, sound check, and video check.
We got
Okay.
it, John.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'm hoping a colleague of mine is also joining here momentarily. So I believe I have a colleague, Jerry Leone, who's joining, but while we're waiting, happy to do a quick introduction and get started. So good to see everybody. My name is John Culbertson with a company called MSW Consultants. I've got some slides that I should get up and running. See if we can get this going. And I need to first share. I need to send a share request, evidently. So a request has been sent. But essentially, we have a brief overview on some options associated with conserving landfill space. Here we go. First, do a confirm. Can everybody see a full page slide?
Yes.
Great. Very well. We will get going. I try to be respectful of the time. Appreciate the opportunity to talk on this subject. And so we have a agenda. You'll see all this. I'm not going to go through the agenda, but this will be a record for those of you who want to go back. But I do want to take a moment to introduce myself and my colleague. There, I think, are some things that, from our standpoint, are important to know. MSW Consultants, I'm actually the president of the firm. We are a management consulting company specializing in the municipal waste management sector, and so that means we work with cities and counties and state agencies all around the U.S. And we actually have also been supporting the PUC as your independent rate consultant for the Guam Solid Waste Authority. And so I won't read you our qualifications, but we have a great deal of experience. I think the one thing though that I do want to point out, because it is important to us and we feel like it's fairly unique, is that we are and strive to be entirely independent. So we don't work for private waste management companies. We don't sell technology. We don't have an engineering practice that we're trying to do consulting. Engineering, it is our business model to maintain complete independence so that we can work with municipal sector clients and really try to see the world through their eyes and try to provide very data-driven consultancy advice. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to my colleague who will be, I think, giving more of the technical overview of why we're here today. And so Jerry, jump ahead and love you to introduce yourself and take it away.
Great, John. Thank you. Can you all hear me this evening or today? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Well, as seen here, I've been involved with waste management and organic material recovery for a number of years. I won't go in detail through the chronology of my history, but as you can see, I've been actively involved in a variety of different roles. Many of them, if not all of them rather, are specific to the management of waste materials. And as my colleague John points out, I've been actively engaged with MSW Consultants for the past 3 years on a variety of matters. Thank you. So what we've got here is a summary of what we've showing as different matters associated with this undertaking. Food waste, of course, represents a large untapped resource in North America and globally. Landfill avoidance is the largest direct benefit that we believe is available. As part of this, we have redone and taken a close look at volumes specific to the island. And you'll see in the forthcoming slide that we've updated what we believe to be the landfill avoidance associated with current volumes. We talked about previously a number of successful projects in the U.S. We have some videos to share with you relating to a few of those projects. And as John had stipulated, we are independent and have completed a review of the National Laboratory of the Rockies documentation, which we previously presented and incorporated herein. Noted, landfill preservation is the largest benefit that we believe would be available as part of this undertaking. We did go through, I believe, the bulk of this previously, so I won't dwell on it at this time, but as you could see, there are some constraints associated with the development, we point out, and increasing drivers associated with that relating to, here again, growth, population-wise, tourist activity, and military operations, etc. So we went through this during the last discussion, so we won't take the time to dwell on it here. We believe the best opportunity, as we discussed, is relating to anaerobic digestion. That technology, as noted, has been around for quite some time, and we'll look forward to having a review of a few of the videos that will be relevant to this undertaking. As noted previously, we have completed a review of what we believe to be processes available largely within the U.S. The first bullet relates to traditional combustion, waste energy, incineration. The next was gasification, which we feel is limited on the island due to limitations associated with incineration. And again, digesters, there are over 20 full-scale projects currently online, and again, some of which we will share via video. The busting we talked about last time, I think we can whip through this.
Yep.
Benefits, I believe we discussed as well. There's an opportunity to divert a large volume of waste and preserve the airspace, and largely to postpone the need for future development.
I think this might be the key update.
It is, John. Thank you. So this is the update based on what we believe to be current volume. We believe that the opportunity to recover organics from your waste stream on the island is largely in the 20 to 28% range of your total, which is about 120,000 tons a year. So with that said, the opportunity to extend the landfill by roughly 6 to 8 years based on those volumes, we believe there's an opportunity for about a 80 ton per day unit, upwards of 300,000 cubic feet a day of high quality biogas. The revised number, as you can see here, would be roughly 31,000 tons that could be diverted into the digester using a rate of $150 a ton. We believe that that value would be roughly $4.6 million per year.
And Jerry, it strikes me that I may go off script here and stop sharing for just a moment, and then actually pull up a memorandum that we had put together that shows a little bit of this background. That's
Great, thanks, John.
a great way to go here. Get set up ever so briefly. So, and I think what I can do is, first of all, reshare. Make sure this is large enough. So, in matters of really trying to hit numbers correctly, I felt like that we should put together a little more detailed memo that compiles historical data about the generation. Hang on, I have not hit the share button yet. Let's make sure I've hit share. All right, hopefully it should be coming through now. But essentially, in order to take the presentation that we presented and really get the numbers correct, we compiled some historical tonnages, which we had actually previously having a pretty good understanding of the GSWA, and use that as a basis to come up with some estimates. And so the numbers on the slides now tie into Guam specific reported waste disposal. And we took the liberty of going through a very large library of waste characterization data to kind of estimate the organics. But on the very same level, I think that only reinforces the importance of getting Guam-specific waste composition data, which was estimated in the NLR report. We have a reasonable idea from other studies, but there is some potential for some significant variation. And knowing the composition of the island's waste stream is one of our recommended prerequisites before going ahead with any anaerobic digestion. So Jerry, I think maybe with that, I don't know if it might make sense to jump back over to any of the final recommendations, or if we want to try to show some of the videos of projects that are ongoing, which I am a little concerned about showing the videos, but we can give that a try. Oops.
Go ahead, John.
We'll give that a shot. So, and I think, let me see, my concern is I'm pretty sure the videos will run, but I am not certain that the sound is going to come through. So let me see if I can give this a try, and we'll see what happens. Okay, folks, let's see. Folks, you may have to read this.
Won't be hanging to the dump when it's thrown away. So how power do you four fires who was developed by UC Davis professor Ray Johnson, built by Sacramento-based partner Clean Wood.
Well, in the biodigester,
If I could, is it true that the sound is the sound coming through on the video, or are you able to read the subtitles?
Barely hear the sound.
Yeah, I don't know if I can make the sound any louder. I can give that a try.
There are subtitles though.
Yeah, we do have the subtitles.
Yeah, the subtitles are accurately following along. I actually wanted to pause here because an important aspect of this particular video and example is this particular digester is generally only receiving food waste as a feedstock, but as you can see from this picture, it's very messy food waste with a lot of bag and a lot of packaging. And I think those are two important points for the PUC if you're considering this technology, is whether or not it's going to process a mixed garbage stream, like from right off the residential curbside, or whether there is some preliminary source separation. In this case, I do want to be very clear. This is source separated food waste, but it's all contained in bags and has a lot of stuff in it. But this is going to have a much higher concentration of food feeding this particular facility than a mixed solid waste or mixed W processor would have. So thank you for that ad lib.
If I may, this is located in California.
Which was developed by UC Davis professor Rayon Zhang and built by Sacramento-based partner Clean One.
Well, in the bowel digester, the bacteria break down digester food and other waste into biogas. Biogas contains the methane mostly, and that can be used for energy generation. This technology is a game changer, so it has changed the way we manage our solid waste. It will allow us to be more economically and environmentally sustainable.
The biogas created in the digester is burned off by state-of-the-art microturbines, which generate electricity that is fed right into the campus grid. The generated from that process is also captured and turned into energy.
This system was designed to handle up to 50 tons per day, every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, of food waste, which is typical of the kind of food waste that you get from grocery stores or even from your home. And we've got about 900 kilowatts of generating capacity here. We're actually taking landfill gas from the landfill, combining it with the gas that we're getting from the digester, and generating about 800 kilowatts of electricity. That's enough to power about 800 homes.
So half of the waste is going to be coming from campus sources, the dining commons, the animal facilities such as the dairy and the hog farm, as well as crop residue from the experimental gardens and experimental crops that are around campus, and the brewery and the winery. The other half of the waste is coming from the community, from local retailers that have distribution facilities nearby, as well as from other businesses in the community.
The benefits of this project will carry far beyond waste Sacramento, normally destined for the landfill, will be turned into clean usable food.
I think so, because it's going to help us reduce our use of brown energy and reduce our carbon footprint. It also is like a seed to plant. Already, people are looking for more opportunities on campus to capture more of our organic waste than out there. So it's really just the beginning, I think, of what will happen.
All right. Real good. So again, that one of two videos, and again, that features source separated organics. The second one, Jerry, you should introduce because I think you're pretty familiar with this.
Yes, John, thank you. I was actually at this facility 2 days ago on another assignment. This is one of the largest in the U.S. and is uniquely different in the way that it handles upfront materials in the form of depackaging. So we'll go ahead and roll this for you. there is a fair amount of recycling that's done as part of this operation, mostly cardboard and aluminum. This is a manual sorting, which is largely a quality control effort. The biogas from this facility is actually purified and put into a local pipeline, one of the largest revenue streams associated with the project, in addition, of course, to the tipping fees that the owners receive as a result of the materials being brought into the facility.
And to that, we also included a third example, although there is not an associated video. To me, an important conceptual component of this technology is the necessity of designing it to process the feedstock. And so, again, to be very clear, the two videos that we showed, those are relatively smaller scale facilities designed to process organic material that has already been somewhat separated and is in a pretty high concentration within the in-feed stream. That said, on the very large end of the spectrum, I also have a link to one of the longest running mixed waste processing facilities that actually does take just waste coming from apartments and commercial businesses that has a front end that does a variety of things to separate that and then feeds organics into a digester. And it has been a little bit, I'll just glance ever so briefly. This is just a static web page, but it is in the San Jose area of California. And again, it's a very long-standing process that seems to have proven the ability to handle large-scale mixed waste because there's a need to process this waste just straight from the businesses and straight from households or apartments. I believe there is a larger necessity to have some front-end technology, mechanical sorting that separates organic and food and yard waste materials from other materials, and also even pulls out potentially some recyclables. So we don't have a video to show on this, but I think, to me, the objective is, make sure you all understand, there are differences. The engineering is very important. And I think as long as you know that, can go about the business of validating whether this is something that would work on the island. And Jerry probably you can say all that better than I did.
Just to renew my prior discussion, there are two streams that come out of the process. One is the biogas, and the second is what's called digestate. So at the facility where we showed the second video, that digestate is hauled to a lagoon. The material is then land applied, and there's very high nutrient value associated with that material, and it is used in turn to grow crops, which are then locally distributed throughout the region. Thank you.
Yeah, Jerry, and can I ask a quick clarification on that? Because that facility is receiving a source separated organics feedstock, they're controlling, I think, very closely that that's good, clean food going in. I think, again, in the interest of informing the PUC on a larger scale mixed waste solution that would, take in as in-feed the full garbage stream. I think we discussed this last time, but it would be harder potentially to remove certain contaminants. I think PFAS being the main one, and Jerry, if I recall correctly, we may still have PFAS in an AD digestate that would come out potentially, if I'm not mistaken. So again, kind of an eyes open circumstance.
That's right.
So I think with that, we had don't know if we need to go back and hit the recommendations again, but hopefully these videos provide a little bit of a sense of the scale, and hopefully we've conveyed the importance of designing the facility to process the specific in-feed, and those of you recognizing whether, there's footprint, whether there's capacity, and certainly the more front-end processing there is, and the larger the waste stream, the cost of these systems obviously would scale. But I think I will jump back just ever so briefly to, to our recommendations, because I think we still would say doing a full combined financial pro forma that would join GSWA with GPA, and then also doing a waste composition study to really understand your feedstocks. The mixed waste feedstocks, in addition to source separated materials, of which I know there is a little bit. There was some mention in the NLR report of some crop residue and some fish waste and maybe some other materials that are source separated. But the bulk of your feedstock would be from mixed MSW, so it would be critical to really understand what that can.
And John, while you're pulling that up, to the extent that there's still an interest in visiting a facility or two, particularly in California, I believe it would be fairly easy for us to accommodate that as the need arises.
Yeah, I'm gonna be going over to California next month to another meeting, and I might take you up on that offer to be able to visit one of the facilities in the Bay Area.
Great, we'd be happy to help with that.
Yeah, great.
So gentlemen, you feel that we can probably drive upwards of 30,000 tons of food waste on this island?
That's correct, based on the percentage that I mentioned earlier, which again would be roughly 20 to 28%, we believe to be diverted of the total waste stream.
Would most of that be the commercial waste stream, probably?
That's correct.
Well, if I could, I'd like to come back to exactly how we arrive at that number, so that you are all clear with that. I think that's really important. So there are two components of arriving at that roughly 30,000 number. And the first component is just looking at the range of historical and current waste being disposed, landfill disposed. So we had data through 2024, so I may be a year out of date, but what we think is the case is correcting for typhoon-related trash, which would not likely be anything you would feed into this facility. If we come down to this bottom row, we arrive at about maybe a little over 100,000 tons annually of mixed waste going to landfill disposal on the island. And so that roughly 100,000, that's a critical assumption. And that is a combination of both household and commercial material of all types, collected by all different haulers. It's both the residential collection, so what's provided by the GSWA, and it's also what's provided by your haulers and governmental small business collectors. So that really is a comprehensive number at a little over 100,000 tons a year. So that's the first. I think that's a pretty strong assumption, because we have a number of years and we can kind of see slow growth. I think that total MSW tonnage is pretty solid. I doubt that jumps around too much, correcting for typhoon trash. The second aspect of our calculations of the 30,000 is underlying this table. We actually looked at our library. We have over 300 waste composition studies in our library, dating back many years, and we looked at a number of recent ones that we thought might be more indicative of the type of waste that might be on Guam. But candidly, and this is important, we took some guesses at the likelihood that food and green waste probably get into the disposed waste stream at pretty high rates. So these are pretty big estimates of the amount of food and green waste being disposed from residents, households, and businesses. And this is why a waste composition study would be so important, because as you can see, a great deal of the numbers are coming in at a from the food waste. Although I will say, I'm not sure what's going on here, because Jerry, I'm actually looking at the math and something looks amiss to me. So I actually feel like we might need to take a look at this, because I feel like we may have a math issue in this table. So we've got to maybe revisit this. I'm not sure as I'm looking at this, I'm seeing that maybe we picked up a glitch in pulling this forward. So I hate to be recognizing that now, but Anthony, we'll take a quick look and follow up, just because we want to make sure this is right. I think all the concepts that we're sharing are right on, and in order for Guam to expect to get a lot of organics out of your waste stream, front-end processing would be very important.
Okay, we'll, take a second look at that table and the final numbers.
Okay. Couple of questions.
Real quickly. Gentlemen, when the food waste is delivered to the plant, typically I guess it would be bagged in plastic bags. How is that handled exactly? And is there a possibility of having a tight plastic bag that's organic itself so that it's not really much of an issue? You can just throw it into the digester along with the waste, or how is that handled specifically?
It's largely done through screening. There's devices these days that actually, if you largely look at a rotating trommel, the material would go into the trommel and it would circulate around, and it would actually force the material in the bag to come out of the bag, and that would otherwise fall out below this mechanical device in the form of a liquid. Bags, those containers, the plastic, the cardboard, the aluminum would otherwise stay captured within the vessel, while the juices and the slurry and such fall to the bottom of the unit and are otherwise moved onward into the system.
Okay.
There is an opportunity, to your question, to use a compostable bag. I will tell you, though, in a sense, that plastic is still going to be plastic, even though it's compostable. And in a large respect, it would not make its way through that system as I explain it. So I don't know that there's huge merit to going toward a compostable bag, because, as perhaps the term suggests, it would take a while for that bag to decompose, whereas in this case, we're almost instantly looking to remove the material from the bag.
Okay. Pete, you have a question?
Yeah, no, just Jerry, just a couple of questions. One was, you mentioned that there's I mean, with this technology and with the amount of, I guess, land space we're gonna save in the landfill, and you were averaging about $4.65 million in land space, I think it was, so on an annual basis. And so, in your experience, like, how much does this, like a facility like this cost? I mean, are we looking like $100 million to build something like this? And if so, we're looking at like 20 years, 25 years, 30 years to recover, just to break even?
Again, those would be numbers largely for what we would see in the mainland here in the U.S., given some of the considerations of the constraints that we went through. There would be, larger, let's call it premium to develop something like that on the island, but you're generally in the ballpark.
So it'll take a while to recover. And the other one is, the last question is, if you, given the technology and what it can do, I'm just trying to figure out, and just in the West Coast, there's only like a handful of facilities that are out there. It's like, why aren't all counties using this? And what's the major roadblock that would cause, that stops them from doing something like this that might be the same case for Guam?
Good question. I think a lot of it has to do with the impetus of the waste authority with managing the waste. And of course, here in the U.S., we have a lot of space, and because of that, we have a fair amount of landfill capacity. So there is something to be said for the disposal of materials into a landfill, which is very common practice, as you might know. In California and New York, there are regulations that are in place. For example, in New York, currently, if a generator produces more than 2 tons of waste a week, they're required by law to not go to a landfill, either to a pig farm or a composting operation or something other than a landfill. So the drivers, in a lot of respects, are regulatorily driven here in the U.S., and we see that in California as well. and that is mostly being driven by emissions associated with landfill gas, greenhouse gas emissions. So I would expect over time, depending upon who's in the White House, that we will see more limitations and more movement toward this type of technology as regulations begin to be
I think if I could expand on something that Jerry said, definitely there's a regulatory component that drives some of this. There's absolutely a market price of disposal component. So on Guam, disposal is very expensive. So that's one of the underpinnings in a number of the areas of the U.S. where this technology is coming in. I think I would add to that the last 5 to 7 years in the waste industry has seen, for really the first time in maybe its history, widespread adoption of some technologies that when you're building and processing mixed waste, there are increasingly technologies that are doing some real-time sorting and using machine learning and artificial intelligence algorithms, looking at photographs of what's being fed into a conveyor, and then using that better knowledge of what the sort looks like to do the pre-sorting more effectively and efficiently to separate the food from the other wastes and also to divert and recover other wastes. So we have a number of projects on the mainland that are large-scale mixed waste processing that a number of us are watching pretty closely, where there's one in Portsmouth, Virginia, that signed the authority there signed a 20-year agreement with one of these companies. There are some other locations that this company's involved with. So I think we're a little bit on the front end of seeing full mixed waste recovery leading to anaerobic digestion of organics. I think that's really at the early stages, but we maybe have the first toehold where that may have some staying power. Also following some of the political things that may change, as Jerry suggested.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions right now? Okay.
If not, we'll let them go over their figures one more time. It looks like once they're solidified, looks like come back to you to approve the presentation.
Thank you, Anthony.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, wait, George.
We just, assuming you go forward, what's the next step?
More. We'll probably get together with GPA and Guam Solid Waste and have a conversation with them. Bring all the parties together at some point and see what direction people might want to take. GPA's done some preliminary work on waste energy also.
Oh.
So we'll bring it all together and have a talk.
Okay. Thank you, John. Thank you, Jerry. What time is it over there, just out of curiosity?
Coming up on 6 a.m.
6 a.m.? Well, good morning. Have a very good day.
Thank you very much for
Thank you, gentlemen.
accommodating us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next update regarding obtaining Guam benefits for employees. Do we have anything new there, Anthony?
No, we did put out, just trying to get an estimate to a couple of health insurance providers, and then they sent us all these health forms and other forms that we're filling out just so we get a quote. So we have an understanding how much that might cost for its employees. We also, I think, made some preliminary inquiries with 401k providers, but we haven't had any. Other than that, we're kind of scrambling to try to get this meeting a little earlier, and we didn't get to the point where we got a firm quote yet. We will keep working on it, so we'll have some choices at that point.
All right. And next is a report on the status of legislation that may impact utility rates. Any updates?
Yeah, so this is the second one I made this year. Okay, the first one was dated March the 3rd, 2026, so we covered that. Just some highlights of the newer ones. Really, the more recent ones, I'll call these the election year bills. So this is on page 7. Okay, Bill 30, or number 36, this is Bill 316-38. This bill was just referred to committee, it's still there. But basically, I don't know if any, the other thing too is, I don't know if anything made it into the new budget bill, that's what I have to double check. But what this will do is, it will redefine the definition of a developer for the virtual power plant program. Currently, developer under that program is defined as a solar farm developer. What they're gonna do is, or what this bill will be enacted into law, is allow people with rooftop solar to form cooperative associations, so they can qualify as developers. And the goal is to try to get us this 100% renewable energy soon. That's kind of the gist of this bill would be.
Which bill is it?
It's,
316-38.
Yeah, 316.
Who is the,
Sabina Perez was
is there any co-authors or just?
I had it on my phone, but,
This one's worth probably copying off and sharing with, or just sending a message out to all the commissioners so we can take a close look at it.
I will, by tomorrow I'll send you a copy of it.
So, how does the mechanism work exactly?
It just, it basically just reads, it doesn't quite explain what these cooperatives, associations would look like. It would just say,
These are like individual residences
That's correct,
that would join together.
that's correct.
But to try to get to 100% is that kind of contradicting what we're trying to, our report saying that we shouldn't be 100%?
Oh, we don't know that.
We don't know that yet. The report, or our consultant, Maryhouse consultant, is looking into what effect that would have on WEAC. The WEAC is absorbing 100% of these costs right now.
Right.
And as we approach 50%, that cost is becoming significant when combined with the enhanced oil prices as a result of the Iraq war. So we're looking at maybe putting that cost of the solar on the renewable portfolio rather onto the base rate versus, we don't know.
Also the debt service and everything.
Yeah, we're also looking at that.
You have to factor that into it.
So that's what the consultants will do. We don't have any phone numbers, one way or the other at this time.
It'll probably be at least another 2 or 3 months before we get something on that in this report, I would think. It's not gonna be immediately.
But this bill is on the floor now.
No, it was referred to committee on May 14th, but like I said, I haven't had time to look to see if it's stuck its way into,
I'm trying to figure out what the advantage would be from the consumer's point of view, to join together and cooperate. What specific advantage would that offer exactly?
To be designated as a developer, like, what do you get as a developer?
an ECA, an energy conversion agreement, just like the other solar farms have.
So instead of going
Oh,
dollar for
so
dollar.
GPA would be semi-forced to enter into a long-term contract with
To buy their solar?
Well, they would basically qualify as a developer, meaning say they could basically submit this cooperative type association could submit a bid in response to an RFP or a response, just like all the other solar farms did, and that's how we got the most recent ECAs, but they would also have to comply with the very rigid specifications currently set forth in Guam Power Authority's solicitation.
Let's say they did though, would they, is this on top of the dollar for dollar that they're gonna get back in a rebate for the?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, so it's like, what more can they get beyond the dollar?
Well, that, as far as summarizing the bill, but this is a rather significant.
Right, but it's worth looking into, see what it says.
Yeah, I'd like to see the details.
It seems like the fact that the title of the bill refers to the 100% renewable, like the idea is that this.
Just to qualify them as a developer so they can be part of the 100% against their faster.
Gets to the 100% faster.
When they're really not the 100%.
I don't see, but I don't know how it gets there faster,
Right.
even if they combine, as opposed to then.
I mean, we already have the most rewarding.
Unless it encourages more solar, because people
people will wanna join the cooperatives and then they'll convert to solar, so we'll be doing.
Now, I'm trying to figure out what the extra advantage would be, because the net metering program we've had for the last 16, 17 years is probably the most advantageous for the whole country.
Yeah.
How would you want to curb it?
How is it better? I don't know.
I haven't heard that far, if at all. Okay. I just think it is a bill of interest that might affect for,
Like you said, it's an election bill.
that's how I define a lot of these,
The other problem that I'll spell out here, and I think everybody knows it, is the net metering program as it's existed from the beginning pays dollar for dollar on whatever the retail cost of energy is, which is always higher than where we have the solar farms. Solar farms are coming in at 17 to 18 cents a kilowatt hour with a battery. So, from the standpoint of the average consumer, what do you want to pay for your solar power?
well, it's not just a consumer can't join it, it's a cooperative association.
I know, but I'm talking about, say, everybody else who's doesn't have a rooftop solar installation. That, from their perspective, the best solar to buy would be the cheapest solar.
That would be correct.
Yeah. Just an economic consideration. Unless at some point in time, the remuneration of the net metering program would change and be equivalent.
The other bill is number 37, that's bill 3, or number 37 on the list was bill number 319-38. The best way to summarize this bill, although it does state provide immediate funding for disaster response, it doesn't appear to be it looks like the bulk of this bill, which my opinion, I might be wrong, is to provide direct assistance payouts to residents after a typhoon. Although some funds would go or would be earmarked for the disaster response. And that might be power or water recovery. But it looks like the bulk is really just assistance to residents after a typhoon. Bill number 39, or number 39, that's bill number 345-38. Basically, this was the GPA revenue bonds, basically the finance capital improvements. This was a very recent bill. This was approved in August 5th, 2026. I predict that this will likely pass, but I'm just tracking it because it did make the list here.
This probably relates to the dream that GPA has of having a 300 megawatt master battery at some point in time in the future. That's probably what this is. I don't know that specifically, but I'm just guessing. I hadn't seen these before.
Yeah, that was just something when I was going through the bills that popped up.
Okay.
So put that on the radar.
Thanks for the update, Anthony. Some interesting things here. And then maybe I'll just collectively, all the last three are FYIs. GPA docket numbers 1001 to 14, or do you want to handle them individually? Or can we just run through all three of them?
I believe we should go through
Individual, okay.
because they're on the agenda, just in case some of the commissioners have any questions.
Sure. FYI, GPA dockets number 1001 and 1409. GPA's 5th and 3rd quarter revenue bond usage report. Anybody have any questions about that? I saw one thing that was in there that was interesting from the past, but the $35 million we approved for GPA GWA multi-purpose facility for the dam. That was some time ago, but that's part of this bond. What else is a big expense? Various smart grid projects, 17 million. Just a variety of things, a lot of fire protection in there. Any comments or questions? page, remember this one too, it's another big one. The first battery that we authorized, energy storage and renewable energy mitigation, 35.95 million. Those are the first two batteries we have in the system, the one in Agana and the one down in Talapoco. Fred and I, back in that period of time, were begging them to get a battery. We're kind of dragging their feet over it, but we finally got it. We'll have a lot more in the future. Anything else on that one? Everybody okay with that? Next item, GWA docket number 1908, GWA's financials for May and June of 2026. Most of this would have been going over in the most recent true-up, of course, too. This is just some of the latest updated numbers. Any comments? Good. And the last item is GPA docket number 9404, GPA's filing of its monthly financial report for the months of February 2026 to June 2026. Any comments? They'll be increasing now in the next 6-month period. That's too bad Mr. John Kim isn't here today. I always like to get the latest update on where we're standing on the under recovery. I've asked him to certainly give us a tap on the shoulder at some point in time if we're approaching the 30 million level. I haven't heard back from him yet, so. Do you have an update, Henry?
Yeah, they did file, I believe it was, an update on the under recovery, but they filed it after we had published the agenda. And we want to revise the agenda and probably on cost, but that will be at the next, meeting.
Anything else? Thank you, Pete.
Well, what about our meetings? Okay, September 17th is still on, right?
So September 17th is the one that we just passed out, right? Special meeting? Because you're up on it.
No, I don't go till the 20th.
That's for the telecoms.
And then what is that total?
It's a meeting,
Or is that too early?
Well, I think
There was a special
Fred is
meeting.
needing to rush his business too, because Doris is gonna be gone in that first week of October.
So it's,
That's
so it's still,
Okay. So Fred's a little cranky this evening.
So are there any other dates possible? I mean, there's a meeting set for the 17th. Anything else, nothing else available in September?
I'm gone from the 20th until the 3rd.
Okay, so nothing available, so how about in October, what's the next available?
When are you back, Doris?
14th or the 15th.
Yeah, we're looking at mid-October. Too late?
Well, I think so, you know, the bond people, they have all their schedules set.
Yeah, I think the general plan, I mean, they just had a meeting in San Francisco just in the last 2 days now, talking to the rating agencies. But I think they're targeting mid-October. to meet in New York, to sell the bonds. So,
So it looks like I'll have to cancel my trip.
well,
I don't see what else is on the list.
I'll buy you lunch, extra time, that's what will work out.
I don't know, it's just a difficult situation.
Yeah.
Arranging these things that are kind of critical, where we can't get a quorum.
We're prisoner to the lack of commissioners that we have right now. We used to live like this in the past too. We're going through another period like that right now until we get 2 more new commissioners. It's an unfortunate thing, but it's reality. Okay. So are we adjourned? Pete, you second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for putting up with
Please
my
take
talking.
some food.